Can you tell our viewers, sir, about not just at your hospital, but everything that you picked up from your colleagues in the medical fraternity, just how bad was the situation last night? We're seeing the politics play itself out, but leave that on the side for the time being. From a medical perspective, how are things at this moment, and what's your projection going forward?
All things were pretty grim last night. They were helped by some last-minute efforts to deliver oxygen to hospitals that were literally going to run out of them somewhere between 12 and 3 a.m. And those supplies got delivered, thankfully. So immediate disasters were averted. In fact, in our own hospital, we decided not to do any elective surgeries because of shortage of oxygen as of yesterday. But then we were assured some supplies, so we have done some semi-emergency cases. So it's very palpable, very real. The oxygen shortage is really the most, the most important hurdle to healing patients with COVID disease at the moment.
Raghav Chadda, we've seen late in the evening the Chief Minister of Delhi put out a statement saying that oxygen supplies have finally been increased because our aim here is not to create panic but to give people the true picture so that they have hope if there is reason to have hope, and they are concerned if there's reason to be concerned. What's the current situation according to you?
Well, first of all, Rahul, through you, I also thank the union government, several ministers in the union government who have been very generous and finally agreeing to increasing the allocation of the Delhi government or the state of Delhi's oxygen quota from 378 metric ton to 500 metric ton. In fact, the demand placed before the union government by the Delhi government was of 700 metric tons of oxygen. However, only 378 metric tons were sanctioned to us in the first place. However, after several petitions before the union government, they have finally agreed and increased the quota substantially. So we do thank them. However, the situation at this point in time in Delhi is worrisome because this allocation will only come into effect after, I think, to the best of my understanding, 24 to 48 hours, because from states like Odisha, increased quota of oxygen will be transported and it will finally reach Delhi after a substantial number of hours. So at this point in time, we're again, living in extremely challenging times. These are desperate times. We're literally monitoring each and every truck, whether that truck has left the premises, that is the premises of the production house, has it crossed the Delhi border, has it entered Delhi, is it about to reach the hospital? The movement of every truck minute by minute is being tracked by our bureaucrats and by our ministers, because the situation is such that there are hospitals where only a few hours of oxygen is left. In fact, I've been given to understand that Max Hospital, which has only 2 hours of oxygen left at its Shalimar Bagh premises and 3 hours of oxygen left at its Parparganj premises, has petitioned the Honorable High Court. The Delhi High Court has granted them an urgent hearing at 8 p.m. today, and as we speak, the hearing is going on. So the situation is grim. Situation is very grim. Though we thank the union government, we can only pray that we are able to manage for the next 48 hours with the limited amount of oxygen that we have. Now, you also need to understand, Rahul, that, and I was doing this calculation, that the total number of patients requiring high flow oxygen as a proportion of total number of patients admitted in the hospital this time around is significantly higher than the year 2020. So the high flow oxygen's demand in Delhi and perhaps in the rest of the country has increased by leaps and bounds. On the other hand, you have a supply side issue, because the production capacity is limited and also what you see, and questions have been raised by several people vis-a-vis the exports of oxygen, how the government of India has exported 9,200 metric ton of precious life-saving oxygen in the last 9 to 10 months.
Okay.
To countries like
so
Bangladesh.
let Sanju Verma respond to it, because the sum of your charge is that India was exporting oxygen supplies, not augmenting our own production capabilities, and therefore we're now literally, Sanju Verma, gasping for